Hello humanity, my name is ScopeSF, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to go over a deck tech for a Pauper deck in Magic the Gathering that has kind of surfaced up. And if you know me from any of my other videos, this deck is right up my alley. This is a deck that's relatively new because the namesake and one of the primary cards was only just released recently in Strixhaven, but this is the type of deck that I've essentially been waiting for and the kind of deck that I'll probably play through my entire life. That said, the deck is called Moggwarts, and it is essentially just a persist combo deck that has made its way into Pauper. And looking over the deck, there were a lot of things that kind of felt off about a lot of the lists I've seen on YouTube. A lot of what I've seen, they ran cards that felt kind of cute in a way. I mean, they were part of the deck. They helped contribute to victory, so they weren't just like random jank that somebody threw in because people are too stupid to find anything else that works. But it didn't feel as streamlined. And maybe there's a lot of bias in what I'm saying. Maybe it's just because I've been going through persist combo theory for so long that I'm actually the one tunnel visioning instead of being more open-minded about what should go in a deck. But looking through what the different cards that are being played have to offer and kind of contrasting them with what could be played, I just made a couple of changes that I think work fairly well for the deck. And that's kind of what I wanted to go over. At least get my thoughts on paper, out into the world, and working from there. I will say this is an incomplete deck. I am new to Pauper. I have no idea how to sideboard. If anybody's willing to help me out with that, heavily appreciate it. Currently it's a Rakdos list, so if you know of any good Rakdos cards other than Gorilla Shaman for fighting Affinity and Duress because Duress is dumb good, then yeah, I would appreciate it. But otherwise, going over the main board, that's going to be the main focus of this. We got the standard combo, Putrid Goblin. I talked about this card way too many times. I'm not going to go over anything except for the fact that it's a common, which I really kind of glanced over, I guess. It never really occurred to me how this would work in Pauper, but here we are. So, single persist creature. I know I talk a lot about having multiple persist creatures in a persist combo deck. There's enough recursion and enough draw power in this deck that I can get away with just the 4 copies of Putrid Goblin. A lot of other people who play Moggwarts already know this. So, yeah, so there's that. And the way to fight off the counters, there is only one way of doing it. It is this Strixhaven card, First Day of Class. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end of turn. There's also the Learn mechanic, which is kind of like Wish except worse. This one's interesting because it's an instant, and all of the other cards that I have ever run in the past that stave off the +1/+1 counters from, or sorry, the -1/-1 counters from the persist creature, they've all been permanents of some type, creatures or enchantments, or I don't think there have ever been any artifacts. Doesn't matter. This one's an instant, so this is. And that's kind of like where I'm coming from when I'm kind of redesigning this deck into the version that I'm coming up with so far. Because this is an instant, you've got one shot, one chance to show. You have to go all in on the combo the moment you're trying it. Unless you have 2 copies of First Day of Class, in which case, even then, you're trying to dedicate yourself to the combo. You want to go all in anyway, and the second copy is just going to be in case something happens to the first one, because blue is a color that's allowed to exist. So, other versions of the deck, they look like they play a stalling game, or not even a stalling game. They're not stall decks, not even close, but they kind of set themselves up for, like, they're focused more on the setup instead of the actual combo. They're more focused on loading the gun instead of pulling the trigger. So, from the way I played Persist, I really don't think that's right. If you're going to play this combo, you're going to be forcing it out, especially now because the only way you have to recur the Persist is with an instant. But it does work, and the fact that it's 2 mana is actually really huge. I might even consider this in a modern deck, even potentially one of my Gruul lists replacing Grumgully. Probably not, because Grumgully does flip from Collected Company, and there's no way I'm replacing Rhythm of the Wild. Rhythm of the Wild is just way too good, but that's neither here nor there. I'm getting way off topic. So yeah, what you need to know about the actual combo: Putrid Goblin, first day of class, recurring the persist recurring the persist on the Goblin. That's all you need to know. As far as the payoff for doing it, there is one route that people are going. I am choosing to go 3 routes this game. 2.5. So the route that most people go, most people I've seen run 4 copies of Skirk Prospector. You know, it's the goblin where you sacrifice a goblin to generate 1 red mana, and it's a repeatable sacrifice outlet, and lo and behold, Putrid Goblin, surprise, surprise, is a goblin. So you're getting your infinite red mana off of this. And you could do a couple of things with that. The main one seems to be setting up for, or like getting the red mana to cast Goblin Matron, and then use Goblin Matron to get Flamewake Invoker, and then because you have so much red mana floating around, you could cast the Flamewave Invoker and then activate its ability at least 4 times to deal at least 20 damage to your opponent. And that's the normal way that things seem to go. A lot of people also seem to run a card called Munitions something. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Is it Munitions Expert? No. Makeshift Munitions is what it's called. So it's an enchantment that has, a cost of 1 colorless, 1 red. You pay 1 generic mana, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Makeshift Munitions deals 1 damage to any target. Because you're recurring the persist creature, and because you're still sacrificing the persist creature for the infinite red mana, you can essentially meet those conditions infinite number of times. So that is a valid way of setting it up. I'm going a little bit more straightforward than that. And this is kind of like the half when I said that 2.5 different directions. I'm actually just running Impact Tremors. I like Impact Tremors a lot more because, for one, it's a lot easier to explain. You don't have to be a genius to figure out how Makeshift Munitions works in the deck, but since you're getting Enter the Battlefield triggers from Persist, just with how Persist works already, the damage is essentially automatic, and it's applying to each one of your opponents. So for one, this is just, I would say it's marginally better in a multiplayer game, but it's also marginally easier to explain the loop. Basically, I'm just considering this a simpler version of Makeshift Munitions. The benefit to Makeshift Munitions is that it deals 1 damage to any target, and this one just said, and Impact Tremors just says 1 damage to each opponent. So with Makeshift Munitions, you can shoot down creatures. That being said, I feel like if you already have Munitions Expert and you're already trying to take advantage of it with Putrid Goblin and Skirk Prospector and First Day of Class and everything like that, you're already going for the face. You're already trying to win the game off of that. I can't think Now, granted, I'm new to Pauper. I've said that and I'm going to keep saying it. I can't think of any creatures that you would need to kill with makeshift munitions before you actually go in for the face. Even if it was a card that prevents your opponent from being targeted, if that was such a thing, Impact Tremors already gets around that. So, I don't know. I think that Impact Tremors is just simpler. I really don't know why more players aren't running it and why they're choosing Makeshift Munitions. But, hey, that's just me. And with Makeshift Munitions, because you have to pay 1 mana and then sacrifice an artifact or creature, I think you're losing too much of your edge if you're trying to do it manually. Like, if you don't have the first day of class and the Putrid Goblin, the Skirk Prospector, and, I don't know, you're trying to maybe get 4 damage out, tapping all your lands, you had a Goblin Matron out and a Putrid Goblin, then just sacrificing Goblin Matron, you only get the Putrid Goblin twice, and I don't know. I really don't... I think at that point you're just kind of playing the combo wrong. I think you need to go more all-in than that. So that's why Impact Tremors is here instead of Makeshift Munitions. And I'm only running 3 copies of Skirk Prospector because there is another route in this deck that I actually prefer to go for, and that would be Carrion Feeder. So Carrion Feeder, another very common sacrifice outlet. 1 black mana for a 1/1 creature. It's not a goblin, so you can't tutor it up. That's actually why there's 4 Carrion Feeders in and only 3 Skirk Prospectors, because worst case scenario, you can just tutor for a Skirk Prospector with Goblin Matron. Goblin Matron being like a primary tutor that gets you literally like every part of the combo except for first day of class. So I think we can skirt on the Skirk Prospectors and we're not actually hurting the deck. But anyway, back to Carrion Feeder. What you're doing with this one is, as you're using it to recur the persist loop, it's basically getting infinitely bigger with a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it. And by the end of it, you could have, 24/24. We'll actually get back to this one later, but basically sacrifice outlet that costs 1 black mana, and there's another interesting piece of tech that I have not seen in any version of Moggwarts, which I am going to go over in a bit. Otherwise, already talked about Flamewake Invoker. Otherwise, the rest of the deck is kind of a draw engine. You have 4 copies of Deadly Dispute, which is an absolutely fantastic card, because if you do have, Putrid Goblin and First Day of Class already set up, this is essentially free. You would just sacrifice the creature as the additional cost, and then you're drawing 2 cards and creating a treasure token. The more well-known combo is you essentially don't want this to be free. You want to sacrifice an artifact, and the primary artifact you want to sacrifice is Ichor Wellspring, because just for 2 generic mana, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. When it goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So all of a sudden, if you have an Ichor Wellspring on the field, not only did you draw the 1 from when you played it, but you're drawing 3 and creating a treasure token if you use it with Deadly Dispute. That is value, and it is no secret as to why that part of the deck is in the deck. On a similar vein, Chromatic Star, whenever it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Yes, there's a little bit of mana fixing here. Yes, there's a little bit of card draw here. It's a slight return on investment, I guess. But this, because of that second sentence, it works really well with Deadly Dispute. You essentially draw 3 cards and create a treasure token. A little bit of tech that I decide to put in is Wedding Invitation. A new common artifact card from, I don't even know, Crimson Valley, I think. So for 2 generic mana, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Kind of nice, actually. Digging through the deck a little bit deeper. But the second part of the card, tap it and sacrifice it, so you're just getting rid of it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So imagine, as you already have the combo going on, you have this 34/34, and it can't block, but now all of a sudden, you show the Royal Guard your Wedding Invitation, and it can't be blocked. So, 34 unblockable damage. Sounds pretty good. And even then, I know that sounds like magical fairy tale land, you get the perfect hand, everything like that. Not really, because you play this card even then partially to draw another card just for 2 generic mana, regardless of what colors you actually have. If you absolutely need to, you can also sacrifice it to Deadly Dispute, so you get a little bit of value there if you don't want to sacrifice any of your other artifact lands for it. And granted, we're not running any vampires in the deck at all, so you're not getting any value of the lifelink. That really doesn't matter. I think there's a place for this card. I'm going to be running it in my version of the deck. I honestly would highly encourage other people to run in their version of the deck, but, kind of up in the air for that. Otherwise, I think we went over everything. The only thing, 3 copies of Faithless Looting. I've seen some decks run 4, some decks even run 2. I kind of like 3. Between Deadly Dispute, which is just an objectively better draw spell, the best draw spell in the deck. I still like the idea of consistently getting a Faithless Looting, because even though it's just looting, it's not card advantage. It's actually not card disadvantage, because you're still getting the effect of the card, but because you're casting this card, you're losing 3 cards while it's drawing 2. So it's not even that great in that sense, but the fact that it helps you dig deeper really, really fast, in addition to the Deadly Dispute, but also the Wedding Invitation, Ichor Wellspring, and Chromatic Star, I think it's worth running 3. As for the mana base, so 4 copies of the tapped artifact lands from Modern Horizons 2, looks like. It's a Pauper dual land, but it's also an artifact, so if we absolutely no choice needed to sacrifice an artifact in order to get Deadly Dispute, that's why it's there. Same thing for Great Furnace and Vault of Whispers. They're essentially just, untapped lands for 1 color that, go in. The only thing I'm going to say about the land base otherwise, it's very straightforward. I'm trying not to keep this complicated here. But you might notice I'm running 4 copies of Great Furnace and 2 Mountains, and then 2 copies of Vault of Whispers, the black artifact land, and 4 Swamps. There is a very specific reason for that. The reason is because of First Day of Class. It does have the Learn ability, so I can reveal a lesson card I own from, in my sideboard, put it into my hand, or I could discard a card to draw. I actually didn't know that about Learn. That's interesting. But if I'm looking for a lesson card in my sideboard, yes, some people are running Introduction to Prophecy, which, that's fine. Go for it. It's not a bad card. But I'm also choosing to run Environmental Sciences, where I could search my library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into my hand, shuffle, and I gain 2 life. The whole purpose behind this thought process is, let's say that I have the combo essentially set up for the infinite red mana. I have Skirk Prospector, I have Putrid Goblin, and I cast First Day of Class. But that's all I have. I don't have an Impact Tremor. I don't have Goblin Matron or Flamewake Evoker. I happen to have a Carrion Feeder. And just for the sake of argument, I also happen to have a Wedding Invitation. But I used up all of my mana, including, any treasure tokens from Deadly Dispute, in order to get to where I am. Let's just say, in this hypothetical worst case scenario, I'm all tapped out, but I still can get infinite red mana with Skirk Prospector, if only I could get black mana with Carrion Feeder. The idea there is, on First Day of Class, I learn, I'll get Environmental Sciences, put it into my hand. Using the infinite red mana from Skirk Prospector, I cast it for, essentially free. I'll search my library for a basic land card, put it into my hand, then shuffle. Because these artifact lands are not basic lands, I have to search for either a mountain or a swamp. Now, necessarily, the odds of drawing every single basic land in my deck, they're minuscule, I'll give it that. But let's say that I didn't play a land for turn, and, ideally, if you're going for this and you can go for this, you wouldn't want to play a land for turn at that point. Let's say as I'm going for this, I'll search up the swamp and put it into my hand. And the reason there's more swamps than anything is because I want to increase the odds of not drawing a swamp, or even if I do draw a swamp, that there's still a swamp in my deck. I'll play that, and then for that 1 black mana, I have Carrion Feeder, which I will play, and then lo and behold, he will have haste because of First Day of Class. So all of a sudden, I have this sacrifice outlet that can get massive. It has haste, because the sacrifice part of it is going to be replacing what I'm doing with the infinite mana from Skirk Prospector. He's going to be huge. He's going to have haste. And I'm giving myself a little bit of a hypothetical edge here. I'm going to give him unblockable. So between all those things kind of fitting together, Introduction to Prophecy is, a good, fine card. I'll take it. But I also like the idea of Environmental Sciences. I'll be honest, I also kind of like the idea of Introduction to Annihilation, because it'll let me, if I absolutely need to, it'll also let me search up, with the learn thing, I'll search up, the 1 silver bullet I have in my deck here, and I could destroy a non-land permanent, or exile a non-land permanent, in order to, get rid of any silver bullets I need to continue, which is also why I think that Makeshift Munitions is not absolutely necessary, but, we already went over that. So that's pretty much the deck. Sideboard, I just know that Duress is good. I know that Gorilla Shaman's really good against Affinity, which even after the ATOG ban announcements, I still think Affinity is going to run rampant. I think that people are just going to get creative, and they're going to take out, obviously take out ATOG, but also take out Fling. Then they'll find something else that they like more. Okay, that's fine. That's where Ingenuity comes in. But I still think that Affinity is still going to be really relevant. So, Gorilla Shaman, pretty good there. Already ran over these. I think what I might end up doing, now I'm not sure, I could be completely wrong about how all this works. I already have 10 sideboard cards. I think one of them is going to be the Introduction to Annihilation, and then the last 4 are probably going to be Pyro, whatever, something, or Red Elemental Blast, or, whichever one of those are those. And that'll probably end up being the sideboard there. But yeah, otherwise, Carrion Feeder, Wedding Invitation, I think those are really good additions to the deck, and that's what I wanted to go for. So I'm going to be playing some test games of these. I should really also record a lot of the test games I go through. New Year's resolution, start recording more Magic. But I'll start actually recording more of my gameplay so I can show progress and thought processes, everything like that. But yeah, this is the starting template that I'm going for, and I'm kind of excited about it. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you have different thoughts and opinions from what the rabblings of my mad mind have been going through, so that way we can compare ideas, and I can learn more from you as well. But until I hear from you, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.